What's going on, y'all? We're back, and we're actually doing something we haven't done in quite a while. And quite honestly, it wasn't just the fact that I didn't have a means of doing this, at least a means that I was satisfied with to be able to record and do this with, but it's actually more the fact that I was so irritated, we'll just say. It just was probably for the best that I didn't, but we're here now, so here we are. Broncos talk is back, y'all. Now, this one I gotta say is pretty much virtually and almost entirely inspired by Matthew Peterson and the folks at Broncos Breakdown by Chat Sports. Like literally everything I'm talking about is pretty much centered around at least a video that they posted today, because I get a lot of my information through them as far as Broncos news and information is concerned. I mean, it's one of my main go-tos, so just wanted to give them a shout out. But either way, it's really, really tricky for me, because after the Russell Wilson trade, and I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, I remember the day that trade went down, and you can even go back to the video that I posted immediately after that trade was announced. I mean, I wasn't too happy, and it was largely because of what we ended up giving up at the time. I mean, that was just, for me, what had to have been the most idiotic move anyone in the Broncos front office could have made, and George Payton really, I haven't been too happy with that guy ever since then. But, you know, I tried to think better of it, but I think it wound up being a lot worse than what I had expected, no matter how you slice it up. But interestingly enough, Sean Payton is here now, and he's talking about, or there's at least rumors of him wanting to trade up to one of the top 3 picks in the draft. And man, I gotta tell you, I just I feel a few different things about this. Really and truly, after everything that we gave up, after everything that the Broncos gave up, rather, to actually end up getting Russell Wilson, I just don't know how I feel about actually making another similar type of move again for a quarterback who really, I'll be perfectly honest about this, between Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Jaden Daniels, which Jaden is the one that I far prefer of the 3. I mean, I take nothing away from the other 2, especially Drake May. But being perfectly honest, just trading up for any one of those 3 and giving up any of the things that are being talked about as far as what it would take to move up to any of those picks to get one of these guys. And another thing too, that's assuming that this actually still holds up as it is right now, because we're basing all this, the fact that, and I'll be perfectly honest, it's a very, very strong possibility, perhaps even a likelihood, that quarterbacks do go 1, 2, and 3 in this draft. I have no doubt about that potentially being the case, and that it's very much there for it to happen. But that's just what we're thinking here in January, and we're literally at the end of January now. But fast forward literally a few months from now, I don't know that we're necessarily having the same conversation at that point, because Senior Bowl matters, Combine matters, I mean, Pro Days matter. I mean, there's so many things that a lot of people just for whatever reason, they just don't seem to want to take this into consideration at all. And it really blows my mind that this is the case because, history has proven that drafts in the past have worked out entirely different from what's been projected in either January or even February as we're going into, for that matter. But all that being said, I'll just go over a couple of these deals here, as I'll be perfectly honest, I can't really be too good with any of this because, it's just so wild to think that making such a drastic move is even a worthwhile idea, but here we go. First one is an idea where it's actually two of them that involve getting the number one pick. Two ideas here. Alright. First one is, of course, the Broncos would get said first number one overall pick in this year's draft. But the thing about that is that the Bears would in return it would be a pick swap for starters. So we'd get their number one, they'd get our number 12, but in the process they would also get one of our third round picks, which for me personally may not be as consequential, but when that's one of I believe 6 picks that we have, I'm not as good about that, but I guess it is what it is. It is the number one overall pick after all. But in addition to that, we fast forward to 2025 where we give them a first and second round pick, much like we did in the Russell Wilson. Okay, so definitely very iffy about that, but again, number one pick, whatever. Topping all that off, though, is going to be Jerry Jeudy and Quinn Miners. And for me, both of those dudes, while they would actually help Chicago very significantly, especially in terms of them keeping Justin Fields, I mean, that just does them nothing but favors. So that in and of itself is ridiculous as it is. But I cringe the least at that, at least of these two options, because this next one is the one that really, if I'm being perfectly honest, it pisses me off to think about. Because now we go into a point where Broncos, of course, pick swap again. We end up getting their first pick, but now we also get their fourth round pick, which, okay, I guess, but the thing about that is that in addition to the quick swap, they get our 12, but they're also going to get our 2025 second round pick. Now, you would think at first glance that's not so bad, but then you factor in the feature piece of this deal, which would involve Pat Surtain. I'm sorry, I can't be more against this, even if I could try. There's just, I don't even want to say the type of things that I would do long before I would ever be good with Pat Surtain. And to be perfectly honest, I gotta say, it just, none of it's ever good. So I'm just gonna get to the point of where any aspect of trading Pat Surtain whatsoever, for me, is gonna be a hard no matter what. And that's just putting it mildly. I want to say that it's a hard fuck no, at least a millionfold. With that aside, even if that were to be something that were to be explored, we're talking at least 3 first round picks. So this idea is definitely null and void, because we're talking about not only just a number 1, I want that number, I believe, 9 pick, I think it is, and their first rounder next year. And hell, I might be wanting to look at one of the pieces they may actually have now. I mean, I'm not real sure. I don't really know off the top of my head their prospects or anything, but that would also be with the notion that we would also wind up signing Jalen Johnson, who's their best cornerback as well. So I really feel like there's just no way that anything less than that is remotely acceptable for a Pat Surtain. So there's that, and basically fuck you to that deal. Now, we actually move on to where there are a couple of other ideas, a few of them actually. One involves going after the number 2 pick, which is just currently in possession of the Washington Commanders. And to get that, we would offer in a pick swap our, again, number 12 pick, but we'd also offer our first round picks of 2025 and 2026. That ain't so bad. I mean, that one, the more I think about it, that's, shout out to Alanis Morissette, by the way, but that's the jagged little pill I'm willing to swallow. Right there. I mean, I don't like the idea of all three, well, the next 2 years of first rounders, but that ain't entirely that bad. But I don't know. That would be a long shot, and I'm not gonna say yes to that either. Really, I really can't. If anything is more, I'm not gonna say yes, but I'm not gonna say no either. But either way, another idea is gonna be for the number 3 pick, which is currently in the possession of the New England Patriots. And with that swap, we would get number 3, but they would get the number 12, a first and third of 2025, in either Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton. Now this I'm good with so long as they choose Cortland Sutton. As much as I hate having to part ways with Sutton, and I like the guy and everything, but I really feel like one way or another he's probably going to either be a cap casualty or someone that could very likely end up being traded, just for the sake of saving cap. But who knows? I mean, I could be wrong about that. At least with Jerry Jeudy, you have a higher ceiling, but that's just me there. Now, the final idea is going to be where we actually trade in to the top 10 for pick number 7, which is owned by the Tennessee Titans. And of course, pick swap, they're 7 for our 12, but they also get our number 3, which would be number 76, and our first from next year. Now, here's the thing. This is where I'm just as inclined to say no as any of the other ideas. But it's more because of the fact that, again, I'm more inclined to want to acquire picks rather than give them up. And even though it would entail actually having to let go of certain key pieces, not Patrick Surtain, by the way, but while it would entail having to give up key pieces, it's not as regrettable in the long run because at least we'll have more to build off of. But I don't know, we'll have to see how all of that unfolds. Either way, I'm not really a fan of that either, because here's the thing. I've seen a lot of stuff, and I've been really... I'd like to think I've been pretty big on Bo Nix. Not quite as much as Jaden Daniels, especially now. But I've definitely been watching Bo Nix for quite some time, going back to his days at Auburn, in fact. And I saw a lot of things that I liked out of him then. Now, it wasn't as great a situation for him, and of course he ended up moving on to Oregon for a reason. But at the same time, I think that he was able to build upon what he did out at Auburn in Eugene, and he's pretty well off for it, if I dare say so myself. Now, one of two things are going to wind up happening here. Either one, his practice, he looked pretty good at the Senior Bowl practice today. Got a lot of heads turned, and that's pretty cool, but I'm going to reserve judgment until Saturday for the Senior Bowl. And I'll go into my reasoning on that here in just a moment. But one thing that's going to happen is that between this, combine and his pro days, he's got to truly kill it on all three of these to where it's going to warrant wanting to move up into the top 10 to get him. Otherwise, I don't necessarily see that being worth something that we do. But it's either going to be something like that, or if things hold to form as they are right now, him and Michael Penix are actually kind of anticipated to possibly fall into the second round, in which case I very easily see us getting back into the second round long before we do anything where any of these ideas of moving up would even be a good thing. You know, it just, for me, that would just be my personal preference on the matter, but that's just where I'm at on that. But yeah, as far as that goes, if Bo Nix doesn't kill it in the Senior Bowl, Combine, and his pro days just all like unquestioned and undisputedly, I'm not here for moving up, and I don't see any reason to do that, especially when a lot of things could just change so wildly between now and April. But anyways, that's just my take on that. I went a lot longer on this than what I wanted to, but either way, let me know what y'all think. Would you take any of these deals? I'm sorry, I would look at you a lot differently if you would be okay with the Pat Surtain idea. But nonetheless, let me know what y'all think. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll catch y'all later.